Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Financial Commute. I'm your host, Chris Galeski, joined by Client Manager Thao Truong. Thao is a certified financial planner and a key element to a group within Morton that helps empower women become better investors. This group is called Herself, and recently they just went through a deep dive about aging in place, something that we talk to our clients and our loved ones about often. So aging in place is not going to a senior care facility, but maybe being more comfortable and staying at home. And there's some key takeaways that people should be aware of, some pros, some cons, some challenges that they may face. I know that, senior care or senior living facilities can often be expensive. And if you didn't do the proper planning of buying long-term care many, many years ago, you might get to a place where you can't afford senior living. So people are maybe choosing to age in place by default. But there's some risk to that, right, Tal?
I mean, also like staying at your own home, it's bring comfort, right?
Yeah.
So people are so used of living at that place for 10, 20 years, 30 years, or how long that is. They just don't want to leave anymore. So
That's a good point.
right.
That's a good point.
So it's not just about affordability, it's
Yeah.
also about comfort.
Thank you for bringing
Yeah.
that up. Because I guess we talk to so many clients and there's so many different perspectives. Some people have 2-story homes and they just say, oh, I'm not going to stay here. And some people have single-story homes that are maybe, easier for them to age in place and they're more comfortable. And they say, you know what, I would, as much as possible, like to stay.
Right. I mean, that's where they build on their memories and everything. So they
Yeah.
just want to be there. There are more and more people now aging and want to be at home. But then it comes with risk and responsibility. What are some of the steps that you can do to help your living at home be comfortable and safe so that you can thrive and continue to be motivated and living your life at the best? So
and tell me, what are some of those things that people should consider when they want to stay at home and age in place? I hear a lot of clients and even family members myself say, I don't want to be a burden on my family. Hopefully they don't get to a point where they need a lot of help or care, but if they do, they don't want to be a burden on their family. So what are some things that people should do to protect themselves?
there are actually a lot of things that you can do and use to help you out. So there are electrical devices that you can use. It could be a watch, or it could be something on your phone, or it could be something that you can wear on your neck. I think people don't like the device that you wear on your neck. I mean, but I mean, like, they can make it very fashionable nowadays that like it looks like a watch, but then there's also a button that, let's say that you fall or something, you can easily press the button and you can set it up so that instead of calling 911 right away, it can call your person that you most trust, like your daughter or your son who live a couple house down the road, so that it can come and take care of you and make the decision whether they should call 911 or not, so that be convenient on both sides.
Sure. Which that's a big key, because I mean, maybe these devices, they're really good, but you don't want them to accidentally call 911.
Exactly.
It might be a situation where it calls your friend or your neighbor or your family member, and you answer the phone and say, yes, I did fall, but I'm actually okay.
Right. Exactly.
And so it's not as big of an emergency.
Right. And then it also reminds you to take your medicine as well, or like have a to-do list so that you can just check it, like check the box and just like don't have to think about whether I take my medicine this morning or not already. You can just look at it and check it off yourself, and you remind yourself that way. And then you can also implement like cameras in your house, but then it really depends on how much privacy you want to share with your family members too. But there's a lot of things that you can do. In fact, like in our events, we have a full list of recommendation on health device system that you can use. I mean, we can make it available for people.
That'd be great.
Yeah. And then beside that, like we also talk about home modification.
Okay, tell me a little bit more about home modification. Like my grandmother, she's getting up there. Sorry, Grandma, but she's 89 years old this year.
Mm-hmm.
We do have Ring cameras on the front, at the front of the house and the back, and so I can see every day if she's in or out of the house, and that helps me know that she's good or she's taken care of. What other home modifications should people be thinking of?
There again, this is also another thing that it can be a very extensive list of things, but like very high level, like very easy things that you can implement are like pay attention to the rugs at home.
Yeah.
Like if it is easy to roll up, or like that cause you slipping over and fall,
Yeah.
like make sure that it's more transitional, or room to room transition, like
Yeah.
if it can be smooth, like that you can go through with a wheelchair easier.
Yeah.
Or like the bathroom don't have that stepping up, like where you have to walk over that stepping
Yeah.
to go into the bathroom. Or maybe like implementing some grabbing bars, or using shelf that is like stick to the wall, and
Right.
it can be stable and secure, that you don't worry about like hitting it and then slamming it over.
Maybe easy access.
Exactly.
You also mentioned to me, and I thought this was a really good one, paying attention to, chairs or tables that have wheels and that can move easily. And that could be a real hazard, because maybe somebody tries to put their hand on it and brace themselves.
Yeah, or trying to get up and then hold on to a chair, and then that's have the rolling wheel, and then they may just like fall over, know. So the more stable is the better.
Yeah. I thought that was a great list. Now, oftentimes when I think about, family members or people that are aging, and maybe they're by themselves, they don't have family members nearby, they haven't hired anybody professionally. How do they protect themselves from other types of fraud, whether it's on the internet or computers, or how do they find the right people to help come in?
Right. So at our events, we have a district attorney coming in, and they work very hard on helping senior and protect them from financial frauds. So one of the things that people bring up is that these frauders, they work on your emotion. So they will give you a sense of urgency that like, hey, I need this money like very urgent. And they know to tap in your emotion. And how do they bring it up? They talk about your family member, or they pretend to be like your family members, like getting into some weird, like incidents in Mexico or something.
Yeah.
Like imagine if you are at work and let's say your niece, somebody call you and like, hey, Chris, your niece is in Mexico right now, and she get into like a accident and she's in jail. And in order to take her out, you have to pay $100,000 to bail her out. Yeah. What would you do, like when you are in that age?
Yeah, I'd feel pretty torn, and especially a lot of this stuff. Most of us get these phishing emails, and you can see the typos or the misspellings, or you can pass it off as potentially phishing or fraud. But this catches a lot of people.
Right, yeah. Right. So like, biggest takeaway from that is don't ever answer any phone call that you don't know, you don't recognize them. If there is anything important, they can always leave a voicemail. Yeah. But make sure your voicemail box is clear and it's not full so that you don't miss out on the important call.
Sure.
And then if you are a family member, one way to spot out if there is something wrong with that third-party care provider is notice on whether they just accidentally or like coming out and living a lavish life and having like an expensive handbag from out of nowhere. Or if you see your parents at home having missing financial statement, those are those red flags that you can pay attention to.
Got it. So if you've hired somebody to come in the house and then all of a sudden maybe bank statements are missing, or
bills not getting paid, or you think that these utility bills has been paid but it's not, and they receive a late statement, then those are very, very easy thing that you can spot out. Yeah,
that's helpful. And so when people are making the decision to either have a family member or a friend, or even hire a third party to help take care of them versus an actual professional service, what are the pros and cons between those? What are things that people should be looking out for?
Yeah, like caregiving nowadays is very expensive, as you already know. I think the cost is around $30 to $45 an hour. Yeah. And sometimes people may need like 2-3 hours a day. Some people may want a live-in person. So I think the number that I read recently is on average, people can easily spend around $10,000 to $20,000 a month for caregiving. Yeah. So because of that, one of the easy choice is to either ask your family member or hire anybody from, let's say, the newspaper. Yeah. That person may not be licensed or like may not be a practitioner.
Yeah, practitioner,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that is cheap, right? But then on the flip side of that, they are not licensed, and then you don't want to burden your family member really much either, right? Because they may be working, they may have other responsibility that they have to take care of as well. So then the other choice of that is to hire a licensed professional caregiver. So the good side of this is that they are very well protected. They have insurance, they are bonded, and they have proper background check and training, so that when you bring in this person, you know for sure that you are not bringing anybody that is not like a criminal that may put you at risk for financial fraud again, right? And they know to say no to you. They're not gonna be going out of the way and just to make you feel pleased of, like, let's say like you want that person to help you move a heavy big planter like that, and that's not something that they usually do in terms of their proper things. But because they want to keep you happy, they may move that and hurt their back. You don't have proper worker comp for that, right? They can come back and sue you.
Yeah, I think I think that's some really good points, because sometimes it's not that we're trying to take shortcuts, but we don't realize the type of care that we need and the risk that we are putting ourselves in by not potentially hiring a professional, right? And so hiring a professional, you get proper training, background checks. They've got insurance to help protect themselves and you in case something were to happen. And you're not taking on the financial ramifications of if something were to go wrong by not hiring a professional, them coming back after you and suing you for, not a great work environment. But there's many different forms of care that people need. And sometimes there's a number of different acts of daily living that you might need help with. And so you might not want to be a burden to your family members, but you also want to make sure that you've got professionals that can help you with those different things, right?
Yeah. A lot of time people think that their medical insurance or Medicare would pay for that. But that's not the case, right? Let's say that if you get into an accident, you go to the hospital, Medicare will pay for the ambulance that come pick you up, the hospital, or therapy, like physical therapy after that. But once you are home, let's say that you still need help with like dressing, bathing, grooming,
cooking your meal,
cooking your meal, or taking care of your pets, like changing the litter box. For example, those are not being paid by Medicare. You have to pay either out of your pocket or, let's say, hopefully you have a long-term care to help you out with that. But yeah, it's...
And the cost of medical care has gone up, so much with inflation. I mean, I think medical costs, the average inflation over the past, call it 10 to 20 years, is somewhere in the neighborhood of 8%. So it's definitely getting more expensive. But people taking a look at how they're protecting themselves, their loved ones, and making sure that they've got the right help in place when those things come about.
And you need a whole village to help you out with that. So don't just think that you can do it all by yourself. You can always ask your family member to come and help you out. Like simple thing like decluttering your house too. Like sometimes you may have a bunch of little canned food in your cabinet that maybe expired 10 years ago that you don't even know of, right?
Have you been in my pantry?
No, but I know of my grandparents, for example, when they get older, they cannot really see things that clear anymore. So of course they don't see that expiration date. So it can become a fun project for the grandkids to come over and help you out and clean that out, so that you don't get poisoned for picking on the wrong thing. So.
No, I think that's great. Thao, any other big takeaways from having the speaker come in and talk about aging in place that could help set our clients or people that are listening up for success?
Plan early, and try to make your house as transitional as possible. Less thing, like minimize it, less thing in the middle of the way, so that you can move in and out easier and you don't strip over and fall. Stable things to grab onto. Know that there are differences between medical care and caregiving. You have to build up your financial for that, regardless of the choice, whether you use your personal person or you use a professional choice. Like you say, cost of care is getting more expensive. So you really have to plan early. There's technology that you can use, and also really be careful of financial fraud as well.
I think that's those are some really good takeaways. Thao, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye.